Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. Hey everybody, what's up? And welcome to another edition of the InfoQuench podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm Amy.
And this podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about the coronavirus because it is in the news. It is in everybody's mind. It is current news.
It is. And hopefully you're not taking in too much in terms of fake news around the coronavirus, but the overall episode, we're going to talk about some cool stuff just around human biology in general.
Human biology?
Yeah,
okay.
I love human biology. There's some fascinating stuff about the human body. So we'll cover some, just some general cool stuff about the human body. But we'll start off with just a bit about coronavirus because we're recording this. It is Monday, March 9th.
In Canada, in the east coast of Canada, where coronavirus has not actually reached as of yet.
Right. We're in St. John, New Brunswick, and it hasn't reached here yet, but it is, I think, widely accepted that it's not an if, it's a when. And not to be alarmist about things, but I think it's always good to be prepared.
It is not in the crazy sense though. Like there are a lot of people who are just going out and buying 400 rolls of toilet paper, thinking that once this thing gets here that they're not going to be able to poop or something. I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, I think people are just stocking up on supplies that they know that they need.
There's something psychological about that though.
Well, there is. I think
in particular toilet paper.
When things like this happen, I think people look for something that they can give them a sense of control, right? But when things seem out of control or out of their control,
they want to control it.
Right. Well, they want something that gives them comfort and maybe helps ease anxiety, and being prepared can help do that. So, making a plan, doing some research, getting your family prepared.
Speaking of getting the family prepared, you should tell everybody the story about when you got home from work today.
Yeah, that's right. So every time I get home from work, our son Huxley always greets me at the door with a great big hug, which is awesome. But today I opened up the door and he said, "No hug, go wash your hands." So good job, school system.
Yeah.
Because they are covering, they're covering proper hand washing techniques.
They're taking the necessary precautions for people who have been in other countries as well, which is very important, especially countries that were, obviously countries that have the coronavirus.
And as I said, it's a matter of time before it comes into our area, and probably a lot of people listening to this, it's already affected their areas as well. And as we know, the vast majority of people recover. But
it's the elderly that really hits hard. Right.
And we have to remember, even if it doesn't have as much of a high fatality rate for the younger population, they can still be carriers. They can still, so we all have to do our part in terms of proper hand washing, sneezing into our sleeves, just basic hygiene and regular things that we should be doing anyway during cold and flu season to help protect the overall population. And getting prepared is a great way just to maybe put your own mind at ease. But there can be snowball effects when anything like this happens in terms of, negative effects on the economy or just effects on overall supply chain. So, things like pharmaceuticals or basic things that you may, need in your daily life may not be as readily available. So having, if you're able to, have a bit of a supply on hand in your home. And it also allows you to avoid going out during, if there were a peak outbreak in your area. If there was a
pandemic, you wouldn't want to be going to the grocery store where you have a very good chance of getting the coronavirus from someone else who may have it.
Well, right. It allows you to be able to stay home and, and isolated, and if you are sick, then to rest because you have everything you need. So I encourage you to look at reputable websites. I go to the World Health Organization website and check out their daily situation reports. You can just Google WHO situation report, and it gives you a very concise overview of what this is looking like on a global scale in terms of overall number of cases, overall the death rates, which countries have been hit, and what the last 24 hours looks like.
It was very interesting because on CBC Radio, you missed this, but it was like a little mini documentary about this this guy who's a foreigner in China, and he is like in Wuhan, which is the ground zero, and there's really nothing happening. Any bus you see is actually filled with nurses and doctors on the way to the hospital and stuff. Like, nobody's allowed to take public transportation. I mean, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but this is ground zero, right? Can you imagine if it just went unchecked throughout the entire world? This is what it would be like, kind of, this because to get a handle on it. So, because of the measures that Canada has taken with SARS in the past and other outbreaks and stuff, I think that we're readily available or readily prepared to deal with it, I think.
Well,
that's the way I feel anyway.
In one way, you can look at if you're looking at a positive side of this, the fact that it has a very low fatality rate. Mm-hmm.
3%,
relatively speaking. Well, 3%, elderly. Depending. Well,
mostly elderly, right? Isn't it though?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a higher fatality rate in the older population. This particular virus, for whatever reason, seems to hit the elderly population or people who have, are predisposed to lung issues, respiratory issues already, are more vulnerable. But it's sort of getting the world ready. If this were a more aggressive virus, something that was, at an Ebola level in terms of fatality rate, at least we're sort of getting the methods, the procedures, the policies and everything in place.
We're getting all the groundwork done for a big pandemic.
So really. I tend to try to look at the positive in any situation. And in a way, I feel like it is getting the world better prepared for future pandemic situations.
If you consider the fact that just recently, actually, I think it was just today, that Italy has isolated the entire country, has quarantined the entire country, which is an unprecedented move. That's incredible. There's no movement at all. Well,
it's generating a lot of interesting conversations in terms of, personal freedom and the rights of the individual versus, protecting the masses and what steps can government take? What rights do they have, to take those
comes
types
into
of
play
measures?
Big time on the cruise ships.
Yes.
Right.
So just, again, going to those reputable sites. So World Health Organization, I always recommend it. I think it's one of those great, unbiased sources of news information. But then also check your local government websites, because they'll give you a better idea of what, what to look for in your home area and the resources and what the situation looks like there. So on the Canadian government website, we have some great resources. Took some time over the weekend to read through some preparedness tips and some things that I hadn't really even thought about. And I like to think of myself as somebody who's quite prepared. But
yeah, so do I. I like to think of you that way.
And it's
because you are.
And as Jeff said, it's not a time for panic and depleting major supplies. But when you're getting your groceries, going through and picking up some extra non-perishable food items. We tend to eat a lot of fresh food, so we don't have a whole supply of canned goods. So we had to make a concerted effort to
get a little bit,
to get some extra, canned goods. And the great thing about it is if you don't need those, if you don't end up needing them, you can donate them to a food bank later on.
One of the things that we really needed was a reliable temperature taker.
A thermometer.
Yeah, I like to call them temperature takers.
Or is it the person who takes the temperature?
Temperature taker.
We got 3 or 4 thermometers here that in our house.
They're all rubbish.
And they're all all 3 of them will give you a different reading. And every time someone's sick, we're always like, we need to get a good thermometer. So today I bit the bullet and went out and bought one. And I was actually surprised at how few thermometers there were left in some of the stores. So,
it'll get like that, yeah.
So we didn't go overboard, but we got some, medication for fever medication, because we wanted to make sure that we had enough for ourselves, and we also had children's version for our son, because that is a symptom of coronavirus, is a fever. So I don't know whether the directive will be at some point, what level to treat the fever. Sometimes the fever running its course, we'll wait and see what the medical advice is at that time. But
the kind of really confusing and kind of frustrating aspect of it all is that you could just have the regular flu that we've had for years, decades. And not really know if it's a coronavirus. Do you know what I mean?
And well, it's fascinating, the whole idea around, the testing and how that factors into overall statistics. South Korea is stating a very low fatality rate, but they're also running a lot more tests. So if you think about the amount of tests, so they're running more tests, they're able to detect more cases of it, and then they're determining overall that they have lower fatality rate.
That's right.
Whereas we have other countries that aren't quite, they're not testing everybody who actually has the virus.
Like the USA,
getting a good handle on the fatality rate.
They're having a hard time with that because they don't have enough tests to test people.
Right. So I guess my takeaway from that is, make sure that you're sort of listening to those reputable, do your research, look at the reputable organizations, listen to the, the medical professionals, not necessarily the politicians.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Trump, and try to get your information from good sources. So
he's looking at his belly button.
Some of the preparedness tips that I found interesting that I didn't necessarily think about were, make sure that if you have some prescriptions that you can get filled, go ahead and get those filled.
Oh yeah.
Good to have those on hand, especially if they're things that are, that you can't live without. You need to have those. If you've got pets, it's a good time to, don't forget them, stock up on their food.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be having to run out for pet food, and you don't want to have to feed them all your all your supplies. So, having pet food, toilet tissue, of course, but think, it can be sanitary supplies for women.
Be economical about it.
Just the regular things that you think about in your household, what you really couldn't go without for more than, 2 or 3 weeks. You would need to have those things in stock and kind of focus on those items. So it really doesn't take much, but it does put your mind at ease. Other recommendations are, do plan your activities, even grocery shopping during off-peak hours. So if there's a busy time at your local grocery store, go during off hours. You're just less likely to run into people. And
wear a gas mask at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and as our son reminded us too, is, we've started a new practice of as soon as we come into the house, we wash our hands. Now, we tended to do that quite often during cold and flu season anyway, but now we're becoming quite regimented about it. It's, you take off your shoes and your coat and you go straight to the washroom to wash your hands. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a great practice.
Absolutely.
I know at my place of work, memos were circulated, recommending, no longer doing handshaking, which I think is something that we probably should have been doing a long time ago anyway. Is
even fist bumps are suspect,
Yes.
Because,
And I think with everything that's going on, people understand this. They understand the change. They're not going to be offended. And it's good for overall infection control.
Yeah.
And even with regard to seasonal flu, they're all good practices. So, if you go to a gym, you may want to consider going to the gym during off-peak hours. If you're participating in fitness classes, you might want to look at alternatives where you can do sort of individual activities. Just if you've got, infants and, you may have more essentials, things like diapers. So you don't have to go overboard. But
just get what you need, but don't go overboard. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
Hopefully. Or just they'll get a vaccine for it and we'll be fine.
Frankly, we debated talking about this at all, but I think it's on everyone's mind. And
it is.
I guess it's a little bit of a time capsule where we're at today.
Here's a question for you. Do you feel like that the mainstream news is blowing it all out of proportion? What do you think? Do you think they're going a little bit overboard because it's so newsworthy? It's so it's touching so many different people.
I think some of the key messages are getting muddled.
When you take something that can cover every single demographic, every age, every race, everything, and it can affect all of them, that's really super newsworthy to mainstream news, I feel. You know what I mean?
Well, yes. I think they need to be reporting on it. I think the message and the communication around being prepared needs to get out there. I think it needs to be clear to people, the snowball effect, so that people who are saying, well, it's a low fatality rate, or it's only hitting the older population, I don't really need to worry, that they just are, cognizant of the repercussions of, what happens if a lot of staff, in a hospital are sick, and how does that affect the overall healthcare system, or what happens if staff in grocery stores are not able to come to work, and how does that affect, do we have some stores that are closing, and that affects our ability to get supplies. So even if you're not affected directly medically, that there are other repercussions that are not necessarily medical in nature. And I think the vast majority of the news agencies are doing a good job at getting out the right information.
You just gotta, you can't be complacent, but you have to definitely get the news across. Do you know what I mean? You can't. Yeah, it's interesting. So what kind of stuff can the human body do?
Yeah, now that we've talked about that old coronavirus.
That's right.
And I did a search on some stuff that I thought was just kind of fascinating around the human body, and the first thing I came up with was goosebumps. Pimples. Yeah. You ever wonder why we get those?
Well, I don't know. I get them very often at concerts. Music touches me in a certain way that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, so they can definitely be associated with emotion. Mm-hmm. Particularly with fear or fright.
Yeah. And
it's sort of an evolutionary leftover from our predecessors. And what happens is there's tiny muscles around the base of each of the hairs, and they tense up and they make the hair erect. And in doing that, like if you think about before we started to shed all our body hair, move inside when we actually had to be a little bit furrier and a little more warm, puffing up our coats like that would actually create more air in our coat and act as a natural insulator. Oh, yeah. But the other thing it would do in terms of emotion, if you were being hunted by prey, or puffing up our coat would actually increase
your alertness.
It would make us look bigger.
Oh, bigger. Yeah, that's true.
So it actually would make you look bigger to the predator. And
it's pretty much what a peacock does, right?
It's like a fear response.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is like a peacock. Well, I don't know what the peacock's doing, really.
Yeah.
I didn't Google that. They're trying to mesmerize you with all those eyes on their feathers.
That's right. The eyes have it.
I'm going to talk a little bit about blood. Hope you don't get woozy.
No, I'm fine. No, it's just seeing it on the Operation channel. No thanks.
Do they even still I remember there was
No, thank goodness
they don't
got
have
rid
that
of
anymore?
That. Yeah, they just...
TLC used to have those. Oh, I love watching them.
They have the pimple popper person, though. That's horrible.
What does that say about the population? We moved from like complex...
They have this other show where they...
Open heart surgery.
These two guys that the whole show is to see how much pain they can endure.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
What's it called? Do you know?
I don't know. Pain Idiots. Something like that.
Pain Idiots. Search it.
I don't know what it's called.
If you're looking for something.
I find it such a silly idea for a show, but what are you actually learning about all of this? Anyway.
Back to blood.
Yeah, back to blood.
A lot of people assume that the red just has to do with the amount of iron in the blood, and it actually has to do with hemoglobin. So... there's hemoglobin in your red blood cells, and that's what carries the oxygen. So oxygen binds to hemoglobin, and that's sort of how it's circulated and delivered around your body. And the more oxygen that is bound to the blood, to the hemoglobin, the brighter in color it is. So bright red blood is oxygen-rich blood.
Oxygen-rich. So
if you think about...
blood is blue in your body, though, right?
No, it's either
Isn't
bright.
It bluish?
No, are you thinking like there's blue veins? Sometimes veins appear blue, but the blood itself is usually either a darker red or a bright red. Oh. So
I thought it changed for some reason. I thought it might have changed color when it hit oxygen, but it doesn't. Right? Not at all.
No, but once the oxygen is removed from the blood, So essentially, your body's picking up oxygen at your lungs, right?
Yeah.
And it's going and it's circulating through the whole body, and then it's coming back. And as it's circulating out to the body, delivering oxygen, it's bright red, and it's going away from the heart in your arteries. Yep. If you remember from another episode when we talked about memory tricks. Yeah. Arteries mean away, so the blood vessels that carry blood away from your heart. Right. And then when it's deoxygenated, so when the blood has circulated around the body and oxygen's been delivered to the cells and it's making its way back to the heart, it makes its way back through veins and it's a much darker color red. So when you see a horror movie and someone gets an artery cut and it's like splurting out blood, it's usually a bright red, vivid. But then once it
See, I told you should have been a doctor. You're so sexy when you're smart. Keep talking about blood, baby.
I thought you were saying I'm so sexy when I'm talking about discussing horror movie scenes.
We don't like horror movies, so.
I know we don't.
We do
like that Operation
We do
channel.
want to see Parasite, though. Let us know what Parasite was like. Probably everybody has seen it except for us.
Well,
maybe it's not even a horror movie. I don't even know.
Somebody commented on one of our recent memes that we posted. I did a quote on, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach.
Oh, yes.
But there'll always be somebody who doesn't like peaches. It was a quote by Dita Von Teese. I love that quote.
Oh, yeah.
This is true. You can't be liked by everybody. But anyway, somebody said it reminded them of the movie Parasite. And I liked their comment, but I didn't really know what they meant because we haven't seen the movie yet.
We haven't seen the movie.
We're going to have to see the movie, and then we'll know
what
Luke
someone
meant.
commented, though.
It was Luke.
Oh, it was Luke. Nice. Thanks, Luke.
So that's a little bit about blood. Do you know what the largest bone in the body is? This is an easy one. A little bit of trivia. Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
And also, it can support 30 times the weight of a human body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
It's said that the human bone, is stronger ounce by ounce than steel.
Wow.
Any guess to how many bones we actually have in our whole body?
500 and some odd.
206.
206, yeah.
Interestingly enough, we have more when we're born. But as we get older, they actually fuse together.
Into cartilage?
Well, the cartilage ossifies into bone.
Oh, okay,
bones that were once separated become ossified and fuse into one bone.
That is interesting. What prompted you to look up this stuff about the human body? Were you is this your natural curiosity?
Yes.
I don't typically do this, but it's interesting. Like I'm of the the camp where I'm just like, well, this is my body. I'm going to live in it. As long as it works, I'm good. I don't need to learn about it. But it's just, I'm like that with cars though, too, right? I'm like that with...
Well, I don't know. I feel it's more important to know where your liver is than it is where your carburetor is.
It's very interesting. It's true, too. It is very true. And this is a part of us.
It's fascinating to me sometimes how little we know about our own bodies, right?
Is your body your temple? Are you careful with your body?
Some days it's more temple-ish than others.
Not on the A&W days.
No. I love A&W, though.
You do.
If you're going to eat fast food, eat A&W.
Amy was just saying that A&W is by far the most friendly fast food joints out there.
Well, when I was pregnant, that was my craving, was matzo burgers from A&W.
And it's still going.
Yeah, I love matzo burgers. What can I say? They are my...
What did I crave when I was pregnant? Pizza. You're like, cut it with the pregnancy jokes. You don't know what it's like.
That's exactly it. According to the... but I do know a little bit about bacteria.
Well, let's hear all about this bacteria. This is fascinating.
You know who else
stuff.
knows about bacteria? The American Microbiome Institute.
Yeah, what are they saying about bacteria, honey?
They say
that
for every human cell in our body, there are 1.3 bacteria cells. So there's actually more bacterium in the body.
Yeah, I remember seeing some kind of a Reader's Digest special when I was a kid, like in a book, and they were showing all the different microbes that live on your body that you would never ever see.
There's more bacteria cells in the body than...
But there's little like insects and stuff in your eyelashes.
Eyelash mites.
I can see them right now.
About half of the population have eyelash mites.
I was just making that up, but it's true? I'm going to go wash my eyelids.
You can see them right now while you're looking at my eyelashes. So, depending on how old you are, it's pretty likely you have eyelash mites. These tiny creatures live on old skin cells and natural oil known as sebum.
Well, they must just clean you up then.
It's produced in our hair
It's like those little fish in Jamaica that were eating at our toes. Do you remember that?
I do.
Well, what's with that? Why did we do that? Why did we even do that?
Why wouldn't we do that?
But
they were nibbling the dead skin cells.
Is that what they wanted? Our dead skin? So they're parasites.
Yeah.
That live in the water, though.
But we wanted smoother skin, and we liked the little tickle of the fish. So
oh my goodness.
That's,
I still remember that.
It was a symbiotic relationship. We both benefited.
Yeah.
Both us and the fish.
Yeah.
No, eyelash mites exist. They're usually harmless, but they can cause like an allergic reaction in a small group of people.
You can't see them with the naked eye, though. Obviously not your own eyes.
No, they're only about like 1/3 of a millimeter, and they're almost transparent. So you definitely can't see them with your naked eye. Unless you've got like amazing
checking
naked
eyes. Your eyes now. I only see centipedes and spiders. So you're good.
Yeah. So usually as you get older, the higher percentage of the population has them, but almost about half of the population has eyelash mites. I don't know. Maybe
half. What happened?
I think I'd be less likely to have them because I wear mascara. I'm going to go with that.
They may love mascara. It may be like
I doubt it.
4-course meal for them.
I can't imagine it tastes good.
Well, you've never eaten it.
I haven't. I've smelled it though. It smells like alcohol.
And you've applied it.
I've applied it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would like, but if it I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's mites everywhere in your body, and it's a weird feeling. But on to the next thing. What's the next thing? Let's not talk about mites anymore.
Well, one thing about bacteria is that apparently, again, according to that wonderful Microbiome Institute, the number of bacteria in your body significantly goes down with each defecation.
Oh, lovely.
But then it replenishes itself. So
yeah.
I was reading too, there's recent studies that say that the appendix may actually serve quite an important function.
So people just keep getting rid of them though.
Well, it's been long thought that they, why do we have them? They're just sort of a leftover vestigial organ.
Let's get rid of it.
Well, and then then we'll end up with an infection and an appendicitis, and then it ends up being removed. Mm-hmm. But there are now some very recent studies coming out that say that it's actually a storage and breeding ground for gut bacteria, which is very important.
We all have gut bacteria, just can't see it. You can feel it though if you're feeling sluggish and stuff. That's gut bacteria.
No, that's not
and
true,
then,
honey.
Fake
news.
And then
You're just making stuff
you can
up.
go and you can get all that stuff taken out with colonics. So.
No, gut bacteria is great.
I'm joking. I'm just making stuff. That was my impression of Trump.
If our registered dietitian is listening to us,
yeah.
she'd be like, "No, Jeff, that's not true."
Well, she probably is listening to us. So Brandy, colonics.
No,
I don't know what that even means.
Gut bacteria is good, and that's why we eat our probiotics and our prebiotics and all those biotics.
That's that crazy name
her.
for the Shambuka. What's it called?
Sambuca.
Kombucha? Kombucha. That's it.
Sambuca. Also a great alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Tastes like licorice, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. Off topic. Largest muscle in the body. Got that one?
Gluteus maximus.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm super impressed.
Thank you.
We've got over 600 muscles in the body, but that one's the largest. You know what the strongest one is said to be? I use mine a lot.
Oh, your
yeah, my jaw muscle.
Jaw muscle, yeah.
Do you know that we can taste something in 0.0015 seconds? That means we can taste something faster than we can blink our eyes.
No, I didn't know that.
It's pretty much instantaneous.
Is that how quickly you taste the that oil you take? What's it? What kind of stuff do you take? The
fish oil?
No, the stuff you...
Oh, oregano oil?
Oregano oil, that's it.
Yeah, I only take that if I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, but you must taste that pretty quickly.
I put it under my tongue where there's not any taste buds.
There's no taste buds under your tongue? Really? There's no taste buds.
I don't speak fingerese.
There's no taste buds? There's no taste buds under your tongue?
Don't put your fingers in your mouth.
There's no taste buds?
You can't. That's another thing about the coronavirus, listeners. Don't touch your face.
You are paranoid. We are in the comfort of our own home. I've washed my hands probably a dozen times since I've been home.
I've just washed my mouth out with wine to make sure that it was completely sanitized.
I'm going to have some ice water then.
Ice water.
It is ice water. What are you talking about? It is ice water. It's
but
got flavoring.
But not touching your face is probably one of the biggest things you can do because the virus, any virus, I think most of us know this anyway, but as soon as somebody says that, my nose immediately starts to itch and I want to touch it. Damn it. Okay. The largest cell in the human body?
Yeah. The largest cell in the human body? I don't know.
Well, in my body. It's the ovum.
Ovum.
It's barely visible to the naked eye, but it is visible to the naked eye.
It is.
And some people actually debate about the age of a person. They say that, women are born when their embryos are developing eggs inside their own body. So when they're later on in life, when they give birth, the eggs that are, used for them to develop an embryo inside their body are actually the age of the woman plus the age at birth. Do you get it?
Sounds like witchcraft.
Yeah, does a bit, doesn't it?
I'm just joking. I don't know.
A little bit of math to end the episode. Anyways, we were a little bit all over the place.
Maybe. We were. Hopefully we kept you interested in stuff in our biological experiments and our coronavirus.
The coronavirus talk.
COVID-19.
Stay safe, stay healthy, be prepared.
We love you. Keep listening to our podcast even if you're sick, okay?
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at infoquench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.